You climbed, you pushed, you sacrificed, you endured. And then one day you stood at the summit of your ambition, victorious. You won. The moment you dreamt of was finally real. You tasted glory and it tasted sweet. But what if I told you that very success might be the beginning of your fall? What if the applause that surrounds you is just a louder kind of silence? What if winning, not losing, is the greater threat to your soul? Stoicism has been called the philosophy of resilience, of hardship, of self-mastery in the face of chaos. But what is almost never spoken of is how Stoicism handles success. Because while everyone talks about how to endure defeat, pain, and loss, very few understand the far more dangerous trial: how to survive victory with your integrity intact. Success is a seduction. It flatters you. It makes you believe you're more than human. It convinces you that you've earned immunity from criticism, from suffering, from humility. You begin to look at yourself differently. You stand taller, not out of strength, but out of pride. You speak louder, not from conviction, but from ego. And slowly, without noticing, you drift, not forward, but away. Away from your principles, away from your inner compass, away from the values that got you there in the first place. That is the quiet corrosion of success. And that is why the Stoics were more afraid of prosperity than adversity. They knew that pain strengthens the soul, but pleasure, comfort, luxury, those things make you soft. They knew that it is easy to stay grounded when you're crawling, but infinitely harder when you're flying. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, had the world in his hands, armies at his command, power beyond imagination, and yet he wrote to himself, not in celebration, but in warning. He reminded himself daily, "You are just a man, flesh and blood, not a god." He warned himself, "Success does not make you better. It only exposes what was always there." That is the Stoic truth. Success doesn't build your character, it reveals it. When you win, when the lights are on you, that's when your discipline must double. That's when your humility must grow deeper. That's when you must watch yourself more than ever, because success makes you blind. It blinds you to your flaws. It makes you tolerate mediocrity. It gives you permission to slip. And those small slips, day after day, become landslides. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is the only good. Not praise, not fortune, not admiration, not gold, not glory, just virtue. Courage, wisdom, justice, temperance. These are the foundations. And when you forget them, when you trade them for comfort, you rot even while the world applauds you. So you won. Good. But what comes next? Will you become arrogant? Will you start cutting corners? Will you allow yourself to be flattered into foolishness? Or will you become even more disciplined, even more humble, even more grounded? Because the Stoic doesn't rest at the top. The Stoic prepares for the fall, not with fear, but with readiness. The Stoic knows that all external things are temporary. Wealth, fame, praise, they are loans, not possessions. Seneca said, "The riches that come from fortune belong to no man. They can vanish at any moment." So the wise man does not get drunk on success. He tastes it, honors it, but never lets it own him. And if it disappears tomorrow, he will not crumble. Because his true wealth was never the applause. His true wealth was inner mastery. Let others chase validation. Let others build identities on likes, numbers, followers. The Stoic builds on something stronger, on silence, on stillness, on integrity. He doesn't need to prove his worth. He lives it, quietly, powerfully. But the world doesn't want you to live that way. The world wants to intoxicate you with success, to tell you, you've made it, now relax, you're above others. And that's the trap. That's when you start skipping the hard work. That's when you stop listening to criticism. That's when you surround yourself with yes men and flatterers. And in that moment, you begin your decline. You must resist it. You must practice the rarest form of discipline, the discipline to remain hungry after you've eaten, to remain humble after you've conquered, to remain focused after you've won. It's easy to train when you're desperate. It's easy to stay sharp when you're struggling. But the real test, the ultimate test, is when things are going well. Will you still wake up early? Will you still seek feedback? Will you still remind yourself how fragile it all is? So practice being poor. Practice going without. Practice letting go. When you've been told that success is the finish line, that once you achieve your goals, once the applause comes, once the world recognizes your greatness, you've made it, that you can finally relax, that the struggle is over. But the Stoics knew something different. Something dangerous hides behind the mask of success. They believed success is not a reward, it is a test, a subtle one that arrives quietly, dressed in comfort, flattery, praise, and ease. Unlike failure, which hits you like a storm, success sneaks in like a whisper. It tells you that you're special, that you've earned the right to stop evolving, that effort is for the hungry and you are now full. But the truth? Success is far more dangerous than failure, because failure keeps you grounded. But success tries to float you away from yourself. Because when things go well, you stop questioning, you stop sharpening, you stop being uncomfortable, you stop being alert. Success can dull the very virtues that made you succeed in the first place. It is easy to be humble when you are unknown, easy to be grateful when you have little, easy to reflect when the world is quiet. Because here's what success truly does. It changes your environment. People treat you differently. They smile more. They criticize less. They try to please you. They flatter you. And if you are not vigilant, you will surround yourself with those who praise your ego, not your values. You'll stop hearing the truth. You'll stop wanting the truth. Seneca warned us, fortune blinds. It lifts a man up only to let him fall harder. The higher you rise without virtue, the greater the impact when the world rebalances your delusion. Winning feeds ego, but Stoicism crushes ego. And this is where the battle really lies. Because the ego tells you, I've earned this. I'm better now. I've won. But the Stoic asks, am I still becoming who I said I would be? It's not about how much you have. It's about who you are while having it. A Stoic doesn't measure wealth by gold, but by character. Not by followers, but by principles. Not by being admired, but by being disciplined when no one's watching. Because the moment you become addicted to admiration, you become a slave to it. You begin performing rather than living. You become what the world expects, not who you promised yourself to be. The Stoics had a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Even at the height of their power, they would imagine loss, pain, rejection, exile, not to depress themselves, but to prepare, because only a fool assumes success is permanent. If you're not ready to lose what you have, then what you have owns you. So even in your brightest moment, prepare, reflect, humble yourself, because comfort is the drug that poisons ambition, and luxury is the pillow that smothers greatness. You must remain disciplined in the light of abundance. You must be strict with your time when the world no longer demands it. You must continue training like a soldier, even when the war feels over. A Stoic doesn't stop writing, learning, challenging, questioning, just because he's won. In fact, that is precisely when he intensifies the work. There's a reason Marcus Aurelius journaled more deeply while ruling an empire. A reason Epictetus warned not to become inflated with pride, even if all goes well. A reason Seneca taught that prosperity is not without many fears and distastes. Because winning doesn't make life easier, it makes staying true to yourself harder. Success makes you visible. It makes you comfortable. It tempts you to believe you're finished. But virtue is never finished. There is no final version of you. Every time you climb a mountain, there's another waiting. Every time you win a battle, your values are tested in peace. So don't be deceived by the surface of success. Dig beneath it. Ask yourself, have I grown more grateful or more entitled? Have I served more or demanded more? Have I deepened my humility or inflated my pride? Have I forgotten how I got here? The Stoic answer to success is not celebration, it is caution. Not fear, but respect. respect for how fragile discipline becomes when comfort takes over. Because while failure builds resilience, success builds temptation. The temptation to slow down, to stop reflecting, to bask in admiration instead of earning it. But the true Stoic keeps moving, keeps questioning, keeps striving, not for more applause, but for more integrity. They train in silence. They prepare in peace. They grow when no one's watching. And when success comes, they say thank you. Then they go right back to work. Because a Stoic knows the victory isn't the win itself. It's remaining unchanged by it. The world can give you everything, and the world can take it away. But your character, that is yours alone to maintain. Your humility, your discipline, your perspective, your truth. So win, but stay empty of ego. Achieve, but stay full of effort. Be praised, but stay critical of yourself. Have everything, but act as though you could lose it tomorrow. Because in the end, success is not the peak of the mountain. It's just another ledge, another test, another chance to prove whether you serve your ambition or your soul. And when it's all said and done, the question won't be, what did you win? It will be, who were you when you won? Answer that well. Answer that like a Stoic.